It's the NRT Insider on NRTV, where we talk directly to the artists about their latest projects, passions, and what's currently driving them in their ministry. Let's go inside on the NRT Insider, exclusively from NewReleaseTuesday.com.
We wrote the song kind of like you and I had discussed before. We wrote the song after a conversation we had with a friend. And she just felt like she's done way too much. She's made some decisions in her life that were unbeneficial, and she's hurt herself and the people around her. And she felt too broken for God to ever repair her heart, her situation. And I remember we were going back to the studio after that conversation, just thinking how often we all feel like that. There are moments or there are things in life that we feel like are just too big for God to fix. And so the song we wrote for a friend, but it turned out to be challenging our own hearts. But you know, God's been teaching us that His version of repair is completely different than ours. He takes us from glory to glory, the Bible says, but also in Romans 8 he talks about life in the Spirit, and how even though our bodies are wasting away, like the Spirit, the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is living in us. And so I feel like that's it's a huge part of our repair as believers. Yes, maybe God will heal you, but maybe that depression isn't going to go away on this side of heaven. And how do you go through that? Well, God's version of repair is that His Spirit is in you and He promises to give us life.
When we wrote the song, like the statement of "You're never beyond repair" was like, are we sure we can say that? Like, how every night are we able to get up on stage and say, no matter where you are, no matter what you've done, no matter what you've lost, your heart is never beyond repair. Like, what happens when a mother who's lost her daughter hears that song, you know, and what happens in X, Y, Z, and we came up with a list of things.
Because we all, as Christians, have areas in our life that are, you know, not completely healed or not completely fixed, and you know, maybe we'll leave this life with those issues as well. You know what I mean? Like we'll have them for our whole lifetime.
It's interesting because we struggle with these things, you know, like, God, would you fix this in my life? Would you fix this part of my heart or my life? But, you know, we're not the first ones to pray that. Paul writes that, and God's response to Paul, he numerously asks him, would you fix this? Would you repair this storm? And God responds and says, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. And just, you know, I feel like that is a part of God's version of repair. We don't know what it is completely, but I feel like every individual, when we trust God, He leads us through that journey of repair.
I mean, one day it'll all be flawless, you know, but up until that day.
A huge kind of inspiration behind that song has been just kind of where the road that we've traveled as a family the past 5 or 6 years, or literally even before then. Like, I feel like my parents have this mentality, like when we were living back in Russia, they sold everything, you know, whatever they can carry on the flight, and they came to a completely foreign country.
Yeah,
you know,
they literally sold the house to buy airplane tickets.
You know, there was 4 of us in the family, 4 kids, you know, they just sold everything, came to a country, didn't know the language, didn't know the culture, so it was a complete, like, an act of faith. Go, right? You know, just, it's time to go.
I feel like that in our lives, like that's totally the case. You know, because it all depends on wherever He wants us. God be possible here. And same thing with go. Like, just I'm tired of being complacent. I'm tired of being, you know, playing it safe. The song says, "Gone are the days I played it safe. I got to escape from the typical way."
Even as we were developing as a band and just starting out, my family, my parents had a ton of faith just to kind of get out there and do this. Like, we didn't know anything about music. We didn't know there was a music industry. It was just such a, like, wow, this is an adventure, you know, like that we feel like we've been called to, that God has called us to. And so He just said go, and we went.
Here I